Okay. Eric, John, how you doing? Just having a little fiddle while we see if there's anyone else that turns up. Just decided to do this last minute thing. The reason I've got my headphones on is it's 5 o'clock in the morning here on New Year's Eve, and so I can't have music playing out of the speakers. So yes. So Santa is a very bad man. So I had this at the top. It's the Mother 32 already. Santa last year got me this. So actually, Santa got me this first, the DFAM. It's one of my friends, who's a pretty well-known producer actually, but he's like my crack dealer or something. So sends me these videos and stuff of gear, uh, and he sent me the video of the DFAM a while back. And I was like, oh my god, it just looks like just like the kind of thing that I would get on with. So anyway, I put it on my Christmas list last year, 2019 Christmas, and Santa came up trumps and got me a DFAM. So, and it's literally been one of my most favorite bits of gear. It doesn't work for everyone. Actually, one of my masterminders got one and absolutely hated it. So it doesn't work for everyone, but for me, it's just like on the money. So a few months after that, I decided to get a Mother 32, which is it was actually the first unit that they released of this kind, this sort of particular form factor and everything. And I didn't get on with it so much. It's just, I mean, it's great. Don't get me wrong. It's beautiful sound. It's a great mono synth. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. It's just in terms of the way it works. It's like it's got this kind of box standard-ish sequencer. And it's great that it's semi-modular and that, but it just didn't have the weirdness and the unusualness of the DFAM. Anyway, then what happened was later in the year, Moog released the Subharmonicon. And as soon as I saw it, I knew that it was for me, because it's, I don't know how really to describe it, but it has the same weird kind of the way that the concept of it is very similar to the DFAM. If the DFAM is about kind of basses and percussion, obviously drummer from another mother. A bit warm in here actually. Turn the fan on. Yeah, if the DFAM is about basses and percussion, then the subharmonicon is about like notes, chords, and melodies. And I mean, it is very different. It's not the same at all, but it has some of the. It's kind of got the same feeling to it. Both the DFAM and the subharmonicon are what I would describe as discovery machines. Like I've seen some when I got the subharmonicon. Turn the fan on, and you'll have to forgive me. I wear trunks these days. I only ever wear trunks. So if you wonder what I'm wearing, I always wear swimming trunks because I live in a place where I can. Anyway, living the dream. So so this thing, I've seen some videos on YouTube about the subharmonicon from people who are like, yeah, it's really frustrating, blah 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 blah. You know, it's not. You know, it kind of doesn't. It just doesn't work for me. I find it really hard. That's because they're not using discovery. They're using design. They're trying to make something with it. They have an idea in their head and try, and unless you're kind of you've got literally got the harmonic series imprinted into your brain and understand that this turning is and also the backwards harmonic series, so it's the subharmonic series, so it goes the other way. So you know that this knob turning that way means that you're on the third harmonic down. You ain't going to be able to design something. Added on top of that, the sequencers. So there's two sequencers which play different rhythms, again at a kind of mathematical relationship, and it's a very tiny knob, so it's very small things, and they play kind of progressively slower subdivisions of the beat. So, like, and there's there's 4 different rhythms that you can use, and you can apply those to the 2 different sequences. It basically, unless you're some kind of, I don't know, like robot or something, there's no way that you'd be able to design what it plays. Yeah, you just got to use your ears, which is quite useful because it's music. And when something happens, like you kind of, I mean, you know the concept of what you're doing, and when something happens, you go with it, and then you work with that. Now, the great thing about these 3 together, because the mother's always been a little bit left to one side for me in my setup until now. The great thing about it is that because they're semi-modular and you can plug them together, you can get one driving the other. So at the moment, I mean, I won't go deeply into it, it's very boring. But basically, I've got a MIDI clock coming out of my multi-clock and going into the sub-harmonicon play hole. The play hole, that's a technical term. It's a horrible word, actually. It's a powerful phrase. Let's not say play hole again. Anyway, so it's going into the bit which says play. So whenever I press play on the door, it starts playing. Okay, now that is driving the DFAM. So I've got the clock out of here, going into the advanced clock into here. But also, I have, what is it? I can't even remember now. Oh yeah, that's right. The sequencer 1 going into the, what is it? VCO1CV. So in other words, the sequencer 1 notes are actually playing the DFAM sequencer notes as well. Okay. And then I've got the mother 32, but basically in the same kind of way. There's various different other things. Anyway, what that basically means is that, I mean, I've essentially got I've got enough instruments there for it to be playing a kind of a whole piece. I mean, sometimes it does feel like things are missing, but it doesn't have to. It's like, that's a limitation that is really kind of exciting for me. Because really the thing that I've been playing with, and the whole concept of this Zentor thing is like the intersection of man and machine. And on the other side of it, yeah, on a personal level, I've always wanted, when I say always, I mean, I don't know, from probably halfway through my music career. In fact, no, probably always, actually. I've always wanted to play electronic music live, because the very first band I was in, we went out on the road and we did play electronic music live. So I think always, since I started making electronic music, I wanted to play it live. And at the end of my last music career, I did actually do that. And I played 2 gigs, one in Denmark and one in Miami, in the Apple store at the Winter Music Conference. Now, the gig in Denmark was before it, and it was just me on my own with a hardware looper. This was back before there were all kinds of software loopers and, you know, the kind of things that we've got now. It was a hardware looper, like a kind of guitar pedal thing. It was the one that Reggie Watts uses, actually. And I went out, like, so I basically had my laptop going into the hardware looper, and I would loop electronic kind of sounds in this hardware looper. And the one in and it was kind of interspersed with a bit of DJing as well, because otherwise it was very stressful. So the one in Denmark went brilliantly. It was like, people were like, "Oh, it's absolutely amazing." But then the one that the kind of, I guess in a sense, more important one, because it was for Apple, you know, like in the Apple store, and it was with kind of 3 other fairly big producers at the time. And because it was in an Apple store, we were like at the D-Genius bar, in a room with the lights on. It wasn't like in a club, so you couldn't hide. And the people were literally, they were sitting around in a kind of circle and standing around. It was like one of those type of things. It was really stressful. And for various different reasons, some of them technical and some of them my responsibility, it was literally one of the worst moments that I can remember. Most embarrassing moments of my life, because I just didn't work. And I got so stressed out, I couldn't even play the right note. I was just like, it was like I was a rabbit caught in the headlight. It was just awful. Not even a deer. I wasn't even a deer. I was a rabbit caught in the headlights. And yeah, it was such a flame out. It just it was awful. It was really, really bad. I can't. I mean, if you're imagining something that's bad, imagine that times 10, and then you might get there. I said to Sally yesterday, because I was recounting it. I said to Sally yesterday, the only thing, no, in fact, it wasn't Sally. It was my kids. I said the only thing that would have made it worse would be if my like trousers and pants had fallen down. That was the only thing that could possibly have gone even worse about this gig. And what that kind of did, this was towards the end of my career, what that kind of did was it because I was like, this was the thing that was going to reawaken my creativity in music, because I was really feeling I was really feeling kind of trapped. And after the Denmark gig, which was about a couple of weeks before that, before the Miami one, after the Denmark gig, I was on cloud nine. But then after the Miami gig, it was almost like I tried to keep, like, after that gig, I was like, well, these things happen, blah, blah. I tried to keep going with it, but it was just such a bad experience. I mean, there were so many important people there. Like my, my US agent, my US record, all of the people who worked at Home Records were there at the time. The boss of the record label, Will Saul, one of my collaborators, he was there in the audience. I remember sitting with him afterwards, like going, oh, and he was going, it wasn't that bad. And I was like, it was, it really was. It was awful. And then all of these other people, the people who worked at iTunes, like from Apple, who had invited me to go there, I mean, it was just awful. Anyway, so it basically killed my motivation, I guess. I mean, remember back then, I wasn't as, I hadn't coached loads of people for 10 years. I hadn't done a lot of the work sort of on myself that I had. So it was almost like I wasn't able to process it like I would be able to now, an experience like that as a learning experience. It was just awful. So when I tried to do more, I was just so afraid of the live thing. And just this week, since getting this, I have realized that this is one of the, not the only reason, but one of the reasons that I gave up music was because that one thing I desperately wanted to do, and I always had wanted to do, well, it's not that I couldn't. I mean, maybe I couldn't back then. I could have done if I'd have known what I know now, but I couldn't get past that experience. It was so raw, so painful, so awful. It was so bad, which meant that I kind of just, I lost it all. I lost all sort of interest in doing it. I mean, I continued after it for a while, but it was like that was definitely one of the big hammers in the coffin for my previous music career. So anyway, fast forward. I mean, if I now look at me coming back to making music, apart from the first album where I was just excited by getting back to making music, almost instantly I was becoming interested in actually playing things live again. I mean, when I say live, it's not so much that I have to be in a room with people. I mean, making the music live. That's the whole thing that I've always wanted to do. It's just been a big thing for me, and I've kind of, in various different ways, avoided it. And this Zentor project is another expression or another attempt at me doing that, because obviously the whole point is that my band is the machines, and I am playing with the machine, like literally interacting with the machines as if they're a band member. And obviously the DFAM was a part of that. It's one of the reasons I was so excited about it. But the problem has been that with just the DFAM and the mother, it was just too, it didn't just using this stuff wasn't enough. It was like, so I had to use stuff in a DAW. And as soon as I started using stuff in a DAW, it became very gritty, very DAW-y, right? And I mean, if you've heard my Christmas single, you'll notice it isn't that gritty, and that's the sort of closest I got to it. So I was moving forward with it, but it definitely wasn't me playing live. So this Mike Mundaly channel was, I guess, another expression of me trying to play live, and that I've just been improvising on the piano. Some absolutely terrible improvisations, some absolute gems. Most of them are terrible. Some of them have been great, but it's just been me playing the piano. I did start to use some splurges and improvise over the top of them. In fact, the Christmas single, what ended up being called Poolside Yuletide, was literally a splurge on a splurge. Yeah, so it was an improvisation on a splurge. But again, it was still very DAW-y. It was still very digital audio workstation-y. Until Santa brought me this. And first of all, I used it in the kitchen downstairs on Christmas Day, and just with some headphones on, and I just didn't get it at all. I was like, okay, this is going to take a bit of work. I was like, I'm just not getting it. So I read the manual, and then I came back to it up here, and instantly I was like, oh, I see. This is what it is, right? After reading the manual. And since then, I mean, I'm supposed to be finishing Zentor music, so I've got a bunch of stuff. I've got like 8 tracks nearly ready in my done column in the automatic music machine. I've just been doing this instead because it's just been so much fun. I mean, really so much fun. And I mean, I've only done a few. I mean, at first I was just doing it like a splurge, so it wasn't live exactly, although it was live. But then pretty soon I started to realize, well, actually these are almost performances in themselves. I mean, there's a lot that can be improved, but it is starting to get to the point where they can be like, I can literally make music live. The thing that I need to improve more than anything else is my piano playing. To be honest, my keyboard playing isn't up to what I would like to be able to do. I can hear things in my head, but I can't. They don't come out my fingers well enough, and I make way too many mistakes. But that will come with time. And so I did. So yesterday, I actually did the first one actually actually live on the channel. I'd done a few kind of privately and kind of recorded them, but I actually did it live on the channel and had an absolute whale of a time. So basically, that's what I'm doing now. I'm going to do on this Mike Munn Daily channel. I'm going to do a live performance, if you like, improvised performance using the subharmonicon and DFAM and the Mother 32. I'll show you on here what I've got going on. So the difficult thing about doing this for me has been, how do I, because the goal is to be able to write music live that I can then release, not exactly as is, but as quickly as possible, right? Because you remember the question that I asked myself, which is where this whole 1 track a week thing came from, which is, what would I have to do if I was to release 1 track a day for the rest of my life, if I only had 1 hour a day to do that, and the quality had to improve, right? So those are the first things. Those are the 4 things. I mean, this is one of those massive impossible music moonshot type things. Yeah, this was the question I was asking myself. What would I have to do? And I'll just go through it again. These are the things. It was almost like I was giving myself the most impossible task ever, right? But what is happening now has come as a result of asking this question. You've got to remember, these kinds of like thought experiment questions are so powerful if you use them in your life. You give yourself an impossible task, a Herculean task. Yeah. What would I have to do? What would the music have to be if I had to release 1 track a day for the rest of my life, and I only had 1 hour a day to do it, and the quality of the music had to improve? 4 elements. Yeah. Because there's lots of things, because as soon as you explode your thinking by giving yourself something impossible, because if I said to myself, if I had to release like 1 track a month for the rest of my life, I could do it by doing the same things as I was doing. I would just have to be more efficient. But by asking that question, and I'm not saying I'm going to be able to do it, but it's just by asking that question, it's like you have to throw away the manual. You have to, I mean, much as manuals have helped, as I've already talked about, you have to throw away the manual completely and just go, right, how am I going to do this? How would I do this? Yeah. And what is happening now has come as a result of it. I mean, one of the things I realized was, well, I'm going to have to improvise a lot of the music. Yeah. The music's going to have a lot less parts. It's going to have to be much more simple. Yeah. So, which will make the mixing and mastering way easier and quicker. And also, it will, like, by making it more simple, it will actually increase the quality because I've got less to worry about, less to focus on. I mean, in the Christmas single thing, I mean, I laugh at calling it a Christmas single, but it was that when I did it, when I improvised it, I was like, actually, that does. I'll show it you. Yeah. When I improvised it, Poolside Yuletide, it kind of sounded Christmassy to me. Let me see if I play this, will it actually? I can't hear it. Hang on, maybe I'll. In fact, I know what I'll do. Why can't I hear it? That's weird. Oh, I can't in the headphones. That's fine. Oh, I know why I can't hear it. It's because I haven't got the speaker. So you can hear it's quite Christmassy, but it's only 2 parts. Get the picture, because that right, I mean, it's very what's the word, kind of a little bit like the musical equivalent of honey, or like candy floss. What do you call it in America? I can't remember. What's it called? Anyway, it's like, it's very saccharine and everything. It's very like, ooh. And I'll talk about my influences in a minute, actually, because this whole thing has reminded me of many things. But so it's kind of very saccharine, and actually what it's meant to do, like the purpose of that piece of music is describing my family situation at the start, Christmas morning, just when the first presents are being opened, and everyone's really happy and everything's wonderful and all the twinkly lights are flashing before everyone starts losing the plot and crying and tantruming and arguing about like toys and all of that stuff. So it's meant to describe that Christmas morning before it all goes horribly wrong. So the purpose of that track is that. But the thing is about that. So whether you like actually what it is or not, because it may well be way too cheesy for some people, yeah. But the actual quality, the quality of it, if you like what it is, or even the quality of it, if you don't like what it is way higher than if it had been more complicated, because there's so little. I was able to really focus on the mix, the relationship of those 2 parts, what was going on. There's a lot of kind of stuff being done which makes it sound, it's like that piano when you play it loud in your ears. It kind of sounds like, you know, the entire universe, sort of thing. Just one piano. And things being that simple didn't actually save enormous amounts of time. I mean, it did, but it did save some time. But what it really did, the biggest thing it did, was it allowed me to focus more deeply on less things, which, because I was able to maintain objectivity with the help of the automatic music machine and everything that I know, allowed me to, it's like the difference between practicing one kick 10,000 times and 10,000 kicks one time. It's exactly the same principle applied to finishing music, right? So that was where I was before this thing arrived. It was like, I've got a bunch of music. Not all of it is just two parts. Hang on, that's somebody else's. That's my last coaching client's music machine. Apologies. So we were just listening. I was telling him exactly the same thing yesterday. All right. So here's the stuff in done. This is the one that I'm about to finish. That's just a piano on its own. I'll actually play it to you. I've got to put your headphones on again. This is not mixed yet, by the way. Yeah, this is pre me sorting it out. So essentially the reason that this is the second one is because it's kind of what it means. I mean, this is actually the first one. That other one, it was just an extra one because I did it on Christmas Day, so obviously it's not 2021. So what this one means, the purpose of this track is this is the end of the beginning. So the beginning being my previous career. In that, so the begin, the album that I did as Mike Monday, when I came back to making music, you know, did it kind of in a month and blah blah blah, and then kind of changed the end of it and whatever. Anyway, so the album that I released, called The Begin, was much more the old me, just finding out what the new me could do, if you like. And what I'm doing now is new Mike doing something totally different, and really what it feels like is honoring the things that I've always wanted to do but been too afraid to try. One of them being the live, you know, the live improvisation and composition thing. I mean, I have tried it, but I've never kind of gone there fully, you know, for various different reasons. But then also stylistically, in that, in my previous career, I was very worried and concerned about what people would think, what was cool, and I wasn't really listening to what I really wanted to do. What was me more than anything else. And I'm a sentimental fool, I really am. So as you can tell, you should probably notice I'm fairly passionate about things. I'm up and down, like a yo-yo. I'm just like that, right? And that kind of laid bare can be too much for some people, and can be a bit mawkish for some people, and sound a bit like, you know, because, you know, sort of cool music cannot, often, not always, but usually tends to be sort of kind of sad, on, like angry, or like like, like it's got that kind of stance to it. It's almost like you're not allowed to be, yeah, right. Which is one of the reasons I love classical music so much, because you are allowed to be that. But the thing is, like, if let's go, I'm not going to play it because I don't want to. I don't want to go. I don't want to. What's the word? Get shut down. But I'll give you some of the stuff. So this, Keith Jarrett. Now there's a particular concert. I've actually got it saved in here. Where is it? The Köln concert, Cologne, as we say in the UK. The Köln concert. So this CD. So I had this CD at university, and it's an improvised concert where he did in 1975. Now I had this CD at university, and I was obsessed with it, absolutely obsessed with it. I couldn't stop playing it. People used to say, Mike, you need to stop playing this bloody thing. It's doing our heads in, right? And it's an amazing story around it, right? So Keith Jarrett, like unbelievable jazz pianist, sort of genius, sort of wunderkind type person. So he was booked to play in Cologne by a 17-year-old promoter, the youngest promoter in Germany apparently at the time. A 17-year-old promoter. I mean, what what an amazing thing for this young girl to do. But anyway, so she booked Keith Jarrett to play at I think it was the Opera House, the Cologne Opera House, and because it was the Opera House and they only ever had classical music back then, the only time that he could play was at 11:30 at night. Right, it was after the classical stuff, the proper music was done. So it was on in this place. Now, the people who moved the piano into the hall for this got it wrong and moved an old Bechstein. I love Bechsteins, by the way, but an old Bechstein that didn't work. Basically, it was really badly out of tune. It hadn't been used for ages, and it didn't work like it wasn't. And the piano tuner in the afternoon said to the promoter, "I can't work with it. I cannot tune this properly. It's basically a broken piano." So the promoter went crazy trying to get the actual, I think it was a Steinway, or I know the big piano. So it was a smaller Bechstein apparently. Get the big piano into the hall for Keith Jarrett, who had been traveling from Zurich, I think, for like 8 hours in a car, so hadn't got much sleep. Right? So he turns up to this gig maybe a couple of hours before or something. I mean, I don't know the exact story. This is what I've kind of heard. He turns up, and there's this old piano that they've tried to fix, right? And it just is terrible. So he turns up and he refuses to play it. I'm saying, I'm not going to play. I'm not going to play this. I can't play this. I mean, obviously he's tired as well, and like, oh, yeah, it's just it's impossible. How am I going to play anything on this? So the promoter then tries to see if they can get the actual grand, which was in another concert hall across Cologne, in time for the concert, and they can't because it's raining. And it will ruin the grand piano if it gets rained on. And this thing's worth hundreds of thousands of francs then. I can't remember. Anyway, lots of money. So they can't get it to the gig. She'd have to pay for the piano if it got broken. So Keith Jarrett's leaving the concert. There's 1,700 tickets have been sold for this thing. It's like just, before. He's in the car. She bangs on the window and says, please, please. Please play. Just play something, please. Because obviously she's going to be ruined if this doesn't happen. Because she's going to start, have to pay for things. So tired, and also in amongst this, he tried to get some food beforehand and went to an Italian restaurant. And because the restaurant was full, and it took ages for the food to come, so he only had like a mouthful of food before he got to the gig. So all of these things had gone wrong. So eventually, she persuades him to go and play. He sits down to play this gig, and what he plays in this gig, it becomes his biggest selling record, and has been transcribed by sort of jazz theorists. It's taught at at universities, and it's I mean, it's an incredible. It's like you can actually hear him because they obviously they've mic'd the piano, so you can hear him. It literally sounds. He's like, it's so raw. It's so like literally direct from heart to fingers to audience. It's like and you can hear him releasing all of the sort of anger and frustration and tension. I mean, this is my interpretation into this. Just it's all. I mean, it is kind of in a way cheesy, but like this. Oh, and it literally makes noises like that while he's playing. Oh, like this. It's like you know something untoward is happening underneath the piano while he's playing. I mean, it's like, and it is so. Oh, I don't know. I'd forgotten about this album. I'd completely forgotten about this album. And when I'd been improvising on the piano, I kept on saying to myself for a while, you know, during this Mike Munn Daily project. So I did like 65 daily improvisations. So I was like, I'm playing in a certain way, and I don't know where this is coming from. Now, just to be clear, me comparing what I play to Keith Jarrett is like comparing what my little 5-year-old Archie builds on Lego with, you know, the Empire State Building, right? So it's like I am not comparing myself as a piano player to Keith Jarrett, right? No, but it's like what Archie tries to build if he tries to build the Empire State Building. It's like it's inspired by this CD, and what is incredible to me is that I suddenly remembered it about 2 weeks ago. I was like, hang on a minute, Keith Jarrett, the Cologne concert. So I found it on there and I played it. And the other thing I realized when I played it is, I mean, I was pretty much in tears and I was getting tingles. I was like, I don't get tingles from music much anymore, which is a sad thing, isn't it? I don't actually get the tingles very much, but I got it from this. So in remembering Keith Jarrett and this, and because he doesn't always play like this, some of it's quite out there. It kind of reminded me of this, and also it kind of made sense as to where the way that I'm playing the piano is coming from. Again, me and Keith Jarrett is like, you know, my 5-year-old playing Lego to, you know, an amazing piece of architecture. So I'm not comparing myself there. So that's one of the places this is coming from. The other is this guy. Minimalist composer called Steve Reich. And this is really where the subharmonicon comes in, because it's got this repetitive thing going on. In fact, I'll play it. I'll start playing something. Which reminds me of minimalism. Actually, you know, for the leapers, if you've done the leap, you'll have seen that one of my people is Steve Reich. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because I didn't remember about Keith Jarrett and this Cologne concert. I was absolutely obsessed with it. So anyway. So you can hear, essentially, I've got this playing. Do you see these lights? Oh no, hang on a minute. Sorry. Where is it? Here. So you see these lights changing here. That's one sequencer. Yeah. Playing this oscillator, which is divided into the main frequency, and then that's actually just playing the same note in this case, and then another frequency which is a subdivision of that. Yeah, so that's the basic pattern. Then we've got oscillator 2, which is going on sequencer 2, so you can see these ones going quickly, and again same concept, main sound. Very quiet. You hear that? There we go. That's the wrong note, but we don't worry about that too much. Hang on a minute. There we go. So you get these repetitive things going on, and you can go so if I bring the baby Keith Jarrett, like not Keith Jarrett at all type thing. Like that kind of stuff. This, yeah. So, and then added to that, so we got Steve Reich, we got Keith Jarrett, and then we have my other love, obviously, which is electronic, having it on the dance floor. Let's go mental, chicken oriental, rave it type business, which is what the DFAM is providing. So as I said, I've got the oh yeah, I've got to turn up volume. Would help, wouldn't it? So as I said, this is running that, right? And these knobs at the bottom. So this is there's 8 steps in this sequencer, and the bottom row is velocity, and the top row is pitch. Although the pitch doesn't come into it because I've got the pitch being controlled by sequencer 1, right? So I've got the rhythm marked out here of what the DFAM is playing, yeah. And I've also got the noise generator in the DFAM set to pitch, so that I can actually create a snare sound. Yeah. So the pitch is actually creating the snare. So I can do this. If I go like this. Yeah. Yeah, but I'm not going to right now. Yeah. And then if I turn up the decay, now none of this is programmed in a DAW. The only thing that's happening is the clock is being sent from the DAW. That's the only thing that's happening. So I've got this. Now that's only playing one of the VCOs, right? And we're probably getting geeky now, but it's fine. So I don't usually do this, as you might notice. I don't usually talk about this stuff. So this is unusual, right? So this is on a different channel to the other one, though, isn't it? So it's okay. So there's only one of the VCOs playing, right? But if I add in the other VCO, which is I've got it hard synced in terms of frequency modulated by the other thing. so I've got that kick also playing on a triangle. If I set it to a square, I can take it up a notch and go. Right, so I've got all of this ability to change things, take things up and down. And then I can go. Right. Now the final part of the puzzle is the mother, because one thing that is kind of missing, well, it doesn't have to be missing, I think. I kind of like the fact that there isn't that much hat clutter going up, you know, all that kind of stuff. I've got the snare going on, but is provided by the mother. So I don't know what, I can't remember now. Oh yeah, so yes. So I've got the trigger of this playing this. And at the moment it's only playing the white noise, but I can with this setup now, and obviously I can use different instruments. So this sound, that's also relevant to me as well in terms of my musical history because of this track. It's a specific track. All right. Beaumont Plage. I'm not going to play it. Don't play it. Don't play it. Yep. Beaumont Plage by Isolée. So I used to warm up at a progressive house night, and this was a long-running progressive house night in London. It was every Friday, and I used to do loads and loads of warm-ups there for ages, warm-up sets. And the thing was, in a warm-up set, you start from zero, like no one, and you have to literally warm it up to the point where the guest DJ comes on quite often, or one of the residents, which means you get to play all kinds of different things, and you get very good at playing lots of different kinds of music rather than just the one set thing, you know, all night. And this track kind of became an anthem for me, and people started coming to my sets early, because because I asked them to first of all, but because it was a good time and it was lots of different music. And this track was became absolutely huge. Beaumont Plage by Isolée, and it's got this sound in it. So again, every single thing that and then, I mean, you already know about this, I think, because I've done it before. These kinds of sounds, which instantly. You're thinking Blade Runner and Vangelis. I was obsessed with that film and obsessed with that music. So every single thing that is in this setup, number one, and also what I'm doing with it, or what it does in some cases, is relevant to my musical history or something about what I've done. And secondly, there isn't much. I mean, so I've only just added these two sounds today, just this morning, because I thought it might go quite well with this kind of backing. So there are things about it that I worry about. So, for instance, like the not being able to play the keyboard very well. I mean, one of the reasons I think Keith Jarrett gets away with that level of sheer sort of is that he's so good, right? So he's like, it's like he's so technically amazing that he can kind of get away with it, and I'm not there. So it's almost like the stuff that I play on the piano is so sort of non-technical that that's one of the things that concerns me about it. It's like my thinking mind kind of goes like, what are you doing? You know, what will people think? But it's almost like the fact that I'm doing it for a reason, that it has a purpose and that it means something to me, and then I'm expressing something about my own experience. And I mean, honestly, the kind of the sort of very what's the word, untrammeled emotional thing that I'm doing with this music is really about my family and my kids and all of that kind of stuff. And also there is an element as well of, I think, in these troubled times with the pandemic, you know, kicking off all over the world, it's like I'm not sure that I mean, there's always a space for everything. What I'm saying is, I think kind of sarcasm and irony and cynicism is something that may not help us as much as it once did. I mean, I'm not saying we can't be ironic and sarcastic and you know, and of course we always want to be skeptical about things, but I think there is a space opening up for just joy, and like for us to let down those sort of masks that we wear, even if it's kind of scary because it kind of is maybe a bit too much, a bit too yeah. So there's that going on as well. It's kind of partly a response to what's going on, and the kind of the darkness, or you know, that's so kind of close to us at the moment. So I think I've now given you a kind of the full background of what I'm doing musically, you know, how I'm doing it. Oh yeah, and the final thing, just like to get really boring and technical, is the problem that took me 3 days to solve, which I have now solved. And it was the reason that the one I did yesterday I did 3 times, is how do I, one, make a live stream of me playing this stuff, which sounds okay. So it's got like effects coming out of the sub, you know, I can put like actual DAW effects on these channels coming in. So you can see here. That's not going to work, is it? Oh, it's not going to work because it's going in. That's right. So anyway, I've got, as you can hear, I've got delay and I've got reverb coming in here. But obviously, I don't want those effects on the recordings because I want to be able to mix these separate things without the effects. You know, I mean, it wouldn't be the end of the world. I could have the effects on. How do I do that with 0 latency and record the MIDI parts and have them coming out as well? Yeah, and record. So when I'm playing, I'm just playing, but I'm recording everything at the same time. So I'm recording the MIDI parts like this. So I'll just give you a demonstration. Come on, hello. as you can see, I'm recording the audio here and the MIDI there. So the difficulty was, how do I live stream that so it sounds okay, and I get the dry stuff, and I can have effects, and it's zero latency, right? I was like, ooh. And I like, there were just so many different ways that I went through it, which is why I've ended up with Luna. It's because I've got a UAD sound card. Like, as long as you use the, I mean, so for instance, I can't put a maximizer on the end, but I can put the summing thing and a bit of tape on, and there's, I mean, I can't feel any latency in playing it. But basically, and then you can hear the ins directly. So you're hearing the ins directly, but then I can also send them to these effects, and you can hear them coming out of here. Now, the no, it's not. So yeah, I'll come to questions later. If you have any questions, think of them, because I'm going to ask. I'm going to answer any questions in a sec. So what I ended up doing was using loopback. So this is the audio device that I've created. It's a virtual audio device called Studio UAD. So here you can see my mic coming in. So these are the inputs into the UAD, right? And in order to hear my mic in stereo, well, it's not in stereo, it's just dual mono, right? Rather than it just be coming in one ear through Ecamm Live, which is the streaming, I've had to connect that mic to channel 1 and 2, because that's just how it does it in Ecamm. So that's the first thing. I don't need this. In fact, I won't touch it because it will probably crash something. Anyway, now in the UAD thing, so usually these two would just be connected and the monitors would be coming out there. But what I've done is I've connected 25 and 26, which are actually in a universal audio device. You can connect the input. So for instance, 25 and 26, I'll show you in the I/O. As you can see, I'm not very good at technical tutorials. I'm not used to them. I only just understand this stuff myself. So that's one of the many reasons I don't do them. But I'll just show you, because I've definitely worked something out which is useful. Hang on a minute, what's going on? Settings? Yeah, here we go. So here you can see 25 and 26 is actually the monitor. So these are the outputs, these are the inputs. 25 and 26 is actually the monitor, right? So I've got it set as the monitor. What I can do here is, because if I play the parts, going back to the parts, so let's just do, if I go back to loop back over here, sorry, that was on Windows. You can see that's the mic, that's the subharmonicon, that's the what is that? Oh yeah, that's the DFAM, and that's the mother. Now, under normal circumstances, they would be going straight to channels 1 and 2 out here, which means that when they come to you, there would be this double. Yeah, there would be a latency, and you would be hearing two signals of these things. I've disconnected them, and I've put the outs into there, right? Which is how I've got all of this stuff working. Which now means, so what that basically means is that I can splurge live, make a piece of music. I can do that every single day. Right? I can splurge live. I can improvise a piece of music. I mean, it may well be rubbish. I can do it live on a channel in front of people, do a performance, have the dry recordings of, let's just do it so that, and I'll just turn off the effects so that you can hear that. Whoop. Mute, mute, mute. So you can hear that's dry. I've got the dry recordings there, and I've got the MIDI that I improvised here as well. So now I will have every single day, because I'm going to try and do this every day. I'm going to try and do a performance every day on this channel. I will now have the raw files of all of these improvised tunes that I've created, which, I mean, it takes me maybe 10 minutes to get a subharmonicon thing, yeah, and the rest of it to do that bit, and then I'll just play. I'll find out what the key is, and then I'll just play over the top. It'll probably take me maybe half an hour in total, maybe shorter as I get better at it. And they will go into my splurge column, and then all I have to do is editing and a bit of mixing, and I will have releasable music. I mean, I could theoretically release it just as is, but I'm not going to. I'm gonna kind of make it hard for myself and sort of try and make the quality, the sound quality better in that way, at the same time as practicing composing music live. So essentially, that's the plan. Santa changed the plan to something that I've really always wanted to do. So that's the plan. I've given you a full, everything that I possibly could about it. What the technical stuff, the thinking behind it, where it's come from, the influences and everything. So does anyone have any questions? The first question is from Jace. What is that piano VST? It's absolutely brilliant is what it is, Jace. It's piano tech. This thing, I know it looks terrible. It looks like, something out of the 90s. but this thing is the bomb. Let me just save this as something else. Let's just call it Zentorg. Oh, come on. There we go. So, but those are into, playing the piano. Okay. So this thing, I've got it's basically a modeled instrument. So, it's not based on samples. It's modeled, whatever that means. But basically there aren't samples. It kind of creates the sound based on some kind of clever thing. Now, what is wonderful about it, let me just get the Steinway out, is that they go and they record these and they do the modeling thing on it. I think it's something a bit like when you do what are those reverbs where they go and record it and blah blah. Anyway, I don't understand it. I don't need to understand it, really, do I? I just got to play it. But the great thing about it, so when I first used it, because I was a big fan, as you know, of the Olaf Arnold's kind of felt piano, but when I played this, thing, now the grunt on this thing, I'm going to turn off the reverb just so you can hear it. So, you know how a real piano has this roar to it. Hang on a minute. There we are. Just turn you off. Yeah, it's got this. It's much more expressive. I mean, I'm not saying it is a piano. It's not, but where as a player, it's much closer to the feeling of actually playing, because it's literally making the notes as you play them. So you are playing an instrument rather than, even if you sampled like a million samples, you wouldn't get all of the nuance to it. The other great thing about it is that it's really, really extendable. Right? You can do all kinds of crazy things with it. So, for instance, what have we got here? So you can tune it differently. So that will probably sound very similar. Can you hear that? Advanced tuning. So you can literally tune it microtonally here. Yeah, I mean, I'm not ever going to go there, I don't think. I may do, who knows. So here are all the different ones, like from... Yeah, so that's one thing. The other thing is that you can change the spectrum profile. So these are the overtones. Starts sounding like a Fender Rose when you do that, right? Yep. So you can do that kind of thing to it. It's also got things like hammer hardness. So if I want to make it a, let's go back to the thing. So if I want to make a kind of felt-like piano, I will turn down the loud notes to make them kind of more a softer hammer. Yeah. So let's do this. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's called Piano Tech with a Q. Then also you can increase the dynamic range here. You can set your velocity according to the keyboard. So you do a calibration, and it will do it according to the actual keyboard. You've got things like string length and sympathetic resonance, which is absolutely crazy. Check this out. It's insane. And then finally, you can actually change, like, so I've actually made this my piano as if you've got your head inside the piano. This is this is binaural. I've got it set to binaural because you can move your head here, or you can set it to do record with mics. Hang on a minute, let's just go back to a more normal one. Right, so, and there are all of these different, so there's harpsichords as well that you can buy. Yeah. So there are all of these different ways of recording. Yeah, and you can move these mics away. Oh, hang on. How do you do that? Come on. Yeah, like that. Nope. You can turn them, yeah, that way. You can make them high, like this. I wonder what that sounds like. So it sounds further away. Yeah. So it's very, very, very editable. You can do crazy things with it. And also, you can turn it into a really old... So this is an old Steinway now. Yeah. It's an amazing... I mean, I would call it an instrument. It's an amazing instrument, the Piano Tech thing. With somebody who isn't going to go out and buy a grand piano right now, which is me, because I just wouldn't, because they're too expensive. Well, they're not too expensive. They're the right price, I think. But they're very... I don't have that money, and also probably don't have the space, and etc. etc. And because the piano is such an important thing of what I'm doing, it's like the expressiveness that you can get out of it is just absolutely huge. So so Tim is saying, would it be a better representation of the magnet model that you would not tell about the project to anyone? It may well be. Well, it depends what you mean by a better representation of the magnet model. Because I've thought about this a lot. Obviously, it's like, how do I demonstrate the magnet model in as pure a way as possible without... Yeah, and what does that actually mean? So what you're thinking about there, Charlie, is one particular vertical, which is going from 0 to something. Yeah, that's one element of the demonstration. It's like, what would you do if you went from, how would somebody who had no followers sort of build this thing? But what I realized was that if I don't tell people about it, then that's an equally bad representation of the magnet model, because the magnet model is going to be relevant to somebody who has, everybody knows someone, right? And everybody's got to start somewhere. So it's almost like, what is the most valuable thing for people to learn? Is it that I prove to people, like, is the most valuable thing that I prove that it's possible that you can go from having nobody know your music to making a secure and stable business for my music by literally not telling anybody who knows who I am about it? Is that the most valuable thing I could do? Because if that's the case, I would not be telling you about it, and you wouldn't be learning anything about it. Right? So no, that isn't the most valuable thing I can do. So, but I totally get where you're coming from, that, I'm telling people who are in my existing audience that I'm doing this thing over here. So it's not in the pure sense of, can somebody who has no fans go to, make a secure and stable business from music? And I'm going to prove it to you by doing it myself. I'm not going to tell anybody who knows anything about me about it at all. Then, yeah, I'm not fulfilling that criteria. But is that actually the most valuable thing I can do? No. The most valuable thing I can do is show people who already know who I am, i.e. you, how I'm doing it. Right? Because you, Charlie, know some people. Yeah, there may be less people, but you do know some people, right? Similarly, one of the guys I'm working with, who's a very big artist, who's in the community as well. He doesn't kind of hang out so much, but he's a very big artist. So he's already got an audience. He's using the magnet model as well. So this particular concern that you're bringing up isn't as important to him, because he's already got an audience. So it's like, well, what do I actually do in this situation? Wouldn't it be equally as false not to tell people about? I'm not allowed. I am allowed to tell these people, but I'm not allowed to tell these people. I've got to try and stop people from finding out about it. That doesn't sound like the magnet model to me, right? So in terms of the magnet model itself, it's about sharing things with people who you already know first. Yeah. Now, I've done some of keeping it not as being me, in that because there's Zentor, and then because I've got Mike Monday, it's not like people who are already listening to Mike Monday's music are going to be automatically knowing it's Zentor. Other things like, you don't see any mention of Mike Monday here at all. Yeah. But it just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense for that one purpose for it to be a pure representation of like going from zero to hero. Let's hope. It just doesn't make sense not to help the people who I'm already helping with it. So this is the reason I'm doing this, for instance, on my Mike Mondaily channel and not on the Zentor channel. When I launch a Zentor channel, it will be kind of performances. I don't know how I'm going to do it exactly. I haven't really thought about it. So yeah, the question you want to ask when you've got kind of questions like this, well, do I do it like this, or do I do it as that, and do I do it as the other, is what is the highest value thing that you're doing, both for yourself and other people? And in my estimation, not telling my existing audience of people, the coaching audience, that this is what I'm doing, and I'm doing it over here, and I'm doing it as that, doesn't make any sense. It's optimizing for entirely the wrong thing. Yeah. At the end of the day, if you need that level of proof, then you're probably, I'm not saying you do, by the way, Charlie, but if someone needs that level of proof, then you've probably got some sort of mindset things that you want to work on, which is, do you have to see it to believe it? Because if you do have to see something to believe it, then you're going to be stuck. right? So let's see if there are any other. So I think there was a question from John who said, "Will it be completely live?" So every at the moment, anyway, I mean, I'm free to change anything I want. Every thing that I do on this Mike Mon Daily channel is well, actually, there've been a couple of splurges where I had a backing, sort of a backing track that I splurged and then I improvised over the top. But at the moment, anyway, for the foreseeable future, while I explore this new kind of little setup, everything that I'm doing on it is, yes, going to be completely live. So that there's not going to be any programmed stuff at all. I may well, when I come to doing the actual release, of some of that music, I may well choose to make some of it to add some other parts. There's a particular thing that I use that I really like. But what I will probably do is I will probably perform that live over the top later. So it's like I will do another take over the top. But the initial live streams when I'm sort of performing splurges, if you like, yes, they will all be live. So yeah. So I have been talking now for an hour and 20 minutes. I've given you a kind of what's the word? Sort of behind the scenes. Oh, okay, here we go. Yeah, no, sorry, Charlie. I wasn't saying that you have to see it to believe it. I was just talking in general. If someone has to see, it's like I was saying. The reason that I'm not, yeah, apologies. I wasn't saying that to you. I was saying that in terms of why would I do what? Yeah, I thought if what I'm optimizing for are the people who have to see it to believe it, then I'm optimizing for the wrong people who probably have other mindset issues that they have to address. So because even if I did make it as pure this is from zero and nobody knows who it is, test, and I'm not allowed to tell it. I mean, it doesn't even make any sense. How would I not tell people about it? Because then it wouldn't be a demonstration, right? But anyway, but if I did choose to do it that way, then I'm optimizing for people who probably wouldn't get the value from it anyway, because they'd have other mindset issues which would stop them doing it, because they come up with another excuse, which is, oh yes, but he's this, or yes, but he's got that, or yes, but he's got the other, right? So that's kind of what I was saying. I wasn't directing it at you specifically. So yes, and then Jace, Mike, you seem to be liking Luna. You've incorporated that as both recording as performance software. So the only reason really that I'm using, well, no, actually, there's two reasons that I'm using Luna for the performance aspect. Actually, maybe the three reasons. One is that I'm finishing stuff in Luna, so there's less going back and forth between things. So that's a big reason. So that's saving time. Another is that because it's so tightly integrated with these audio sound card that interface. So I've got an Apollo X6. Yeah, because it's so tightly integrated with that there are a lot less latency issues. And everything can be kind of in one place. So like, I mean, I'm sure Ableton's the same as well, but it's like it's like going from one thing to another is one thing, but yeah, on top of that, the way that it works means that the mic, this mic coming in here is the same as it here. So I haven't actually got anything in there at the moment, but but if I was to put something in here, it would also show up in here. Yeah, it's just basically very, very tightly integrated. The other thing is that having the summing on this main out and the tape just adds a bit of to it for you. Yeah. And again, I've tested it and I can't, I mean, there probably is some latency, but I can't perceive any latency. So really, I would not take this out on the road with me. I would do it a different way. I'd probably open up Ableton or something and use that, or I might do something else. I'm not sure what I'd do, but you know, as I'm in my studio, and by the way, when I say live, I'm not that interested in going out on the road. When I'm talking about live, I'm talking about making music live, the experience of actually being in the music and making it as it comes out. You know, that's what I mean by live. I'm not talking about necessarily being in a room with other people playing it in front of people. But if I was to do that, I wouldn't use Luna because it would involve having a powerful computer, because to be able to do the streaming and all this, and I mean down here you can see I'm recording it. I know you probably can't see. I'm sorry, I'm not sharing the screen, am I? So yeah, so to do all of this, so I've got the summing here. You can see the tape and the summing. To be able to do all of this and record in at 96 kilohertz and stream at the same time involves having a pretty, you know, beastly computers. And I wouldn't be able to do that live, nor would I in gigs, nor would I want to. So I would probably use a different DAW for that. And in fact, I might not even use a DAW. I don't know. Maybe I would just. I mean, I did consider actually not clocking it to a DAW, just literally doing it from here. Because if I unplug the play hole, then wait a minute. There we go. You'll hear, and I may well do this in the future actually. Oh, that's why you see. As soon as did you see that? As soon as I put the inputs on, you can see here that the pre that I've got on there comes up. Yeah. So you can see they disappear when I do that, and then they come back. It's just a lot more kind of. It's a lot easier. So now I haven't got this plugged. I'm just going to press play on this. So this is set by the tempo knob. The audio rate. Which is fun. So I may well do that in future. The only reason that I haven't done that this time, it was like one of the questions that I was asking myself when I first decided, when I first got this, I was like, all right, I can do this now. Was, you know, do I clock to a DAW, you know, signal like for instance 72 BPM, or do I just, you know, go with the freedom of the tempo knob? And because I could, you know, I could just play. There's nothing stopping me doing that. The reason was that it just gives me more flexibility in the finishing. So if I do want to add something extra, I can, because now I've got the recordings at a particular tempo. Now I do think there is something that you lose in going on the grid, because I'm choosing. I'm opting to move. I'm opting to put what I'm doing onto a grid. But we'll see. I may well decide against doing that. And, you know, thinking about it now, if I was on the road, I would probably almost definitely just use this with the tempo knob and take a laptop with me and use MainStage or something in order to play the instruments. In fact, if my little UAD interface hadn't stopped turning on, I probably would be doing that. I probably would be recording the MIDI, you know, so playing that on a separate thing going in as audio. So, yep. So I think that's everything. If there are no more questions, I better go and be with family. It's New Year's Eve here. I thought I'd just do that. I thought it was going to be quick, but obviously not. I can talk, can't I? But I've given you a really in-depth look into the thought process behind what I'm doing here with musically, stylistically, in terms of releasing, and also making Zentor a a demonstration. So it's been wonderful to hang out. I guess this is the last time we will speak before the new decade, 2021. I know things are pretty terrible in lots of different places, what with the pandemic and everything. So please keep safe, keep making music. It's such a wonderful escape. I was saying this to Sally, my wife, the other day, just yesterday, in fact. It's like one of the reasons that I want to make the music live, like in the moment, is that when you can do that, you are in a, it's like nothing out. There is nothing else. Nothing matters. That it's just you and this sound, and it's such a peak experience that I want there to be more of that, on a personal level. It's like kind of like meditation in a way, and I think for everybody who has the desire to make music, as soon as you can do the kind of mindset things and you use things like the automatic music machine, the various different things that I teach you about, to be able to let go of the need for it to be good, then you can access that kind of escape from whatever is going on in your life as well. And really, that's one of the most important things for me to be able to help you to do, is to access that I mean, maybe escape is the wrong word. Escape almost feels like you're trying to run away, but it's almost like just reaching this place where everything's okay. So yeah. So have a wonderful new year. Stay safe. I will be back very soon. We're doing the Idea Explosion Challenge competition starting the 4th of January. So we'll be back here with that. So until 2021, onwards and upwards.